welcome. Really excited for the inaugural Cited. Folks have come in from all over the country. Someone came in from Spain. A couple of people came in from Brazil. So really excited to kick this off. About a year ago, I was hosting a dinner with some brand publishing leaders. We had the VP of content at a major credit card company. We had the managing editor of a restaurant reservation bookings platform. We had the managing editor of a travel tech company, a few others. And usually at those types of dinners, I feel like by the time dessert comes, everyone's like, get me the hell out. I'm ready to go home, see my kids. This has been nice networking. And there was just something very different about this dinner. People were getting very vulnerable. They were kind of getting deep into these problems of what it's like going from being a journalist in a traditional publication to running a team at a brand. And it just became very apparent that there was not a community for that group of people. And so that really was what Cited was born out of, was seeing this trend and starting to bring together all of the different members of that community to solve problems. So very quickly, I'm Noah Greenberg. I'm CEO at Stacker. If you're not familiar with Stacker, we are a earned distribution platform built for helping take brand content, traditionally published as owned media, and getting that republished as earned media across hundreds and thousands of news outlets. We do this for hundreds of brands, and really this has given us a front row seat the past few years into a lot of the problems that folks like yourselves are running into, how different teams are solving them, and really just has put us kind of at the epicenter of seeing how this is progressing. So it is no secret that lots of journalists are moving over, taking roles, leading content teams. It's no secret that thousands of brands are building out real newsrooms, thinking about how do we produce real editorial content. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you probably see I post some of these jobs occasionally. And when I post these roundups of, here's a dozen jobs of brands hiring journalists, I get two questions mainly. The first of which is, how do I do this? What advice do you have? I just took one of these roles. I am not a journalist. I've never been a journalist. I've never taken one of these roles. So we brought together 200 people that have done that. And hopefully there's some really good networking today. There's going to be some amazing panels to help answer that first question. The second question that I get all the time is, why is this happening? And that is something that I have a lot of thoughts on. So everyone in this room, whether you're in comms, whether you're in editorial, other groups, you either probably report into the marketing department or are very closely related and working with the marketing department. And it's important to acknowledge that a lot has changed in the marketing landscape over the past 10 years. So what do I mean by that? A couple things I want to talk through. First, paid ads just do not work like they used to. So what this chart is showing is the average cost of a CPC or buying a click on Google over the past 10 years. It has tripled on average. So it doesn't matter if you're B2B, if you're B2C, if you're selling a product, if you're selling a service. 10 years ago, there was this great arbitrage opportunity of buying clicks, buying customers. That market has become very efficient, and it's not the same as it was 10 years ago. At the same time, AI, we made it 6 slides. That black line on top is essentially searches on traditional search engines. That green bar are LLM sessions. As you can see, no, SEO is not going anywhere right now, but there's an entirely new surface area that brands are having to think about. How do we show up? How do we get recommended or not get recommended when potential customers are thinking about our space? That's all happening while there's more competition than ever before. So even 10 years ago, it was way easier to launch a business than ever before, but this has really taken off the past year or two. So this chart is looking at the number of stores on Shopify. It has grown by 60% just in the past year, 10 months, year. You can see that it's gone parabolic. And even if you're not selling a product, we looked at data from Render. Render is a platform that a lot of businesses use to launch web apps and iPhone apps and different kind of just different apps. And you can see that it was growing, but as vibe coding became a thing, there are just more products being launched than ever before. And there's probably no better way to show that than looking at searches on Google for open an LLC, which again has just gone parabolic over the past year. So it does not matter what business you are in, there's just more competition. There are more businesses, there's more noise for you to break through. And when competition is stiff and when a lot of those channels that folks had used historically are fading, brand really has become more important the past couple years than ever before. And fortunately for the people in this room, there's really no better way to build brand right now than through strong content. Some brands have been doing this for decades, but really have seen over the past couple of years how strong editorial, call it thought leadership, call it data journalism, but we're talking content that is not meant to have someone buy your product tomorrow. We're talking content that is meant to put your organization as an authority in the space, has really become an incredible way to build brand content, to build brand. And that is what's driven this golden age of brand editorial. So in December, Katie Dayton from the Journal, who we're lucky enough to have moderating a panel today, kind of popped the lid on this with the piece on the left. I'm sure everyone in the room saw it, about storytellers. Lots of other publications followed on. Really, we are seeing this gold rush of brands leaning in and saying, what's it going to take what was considered content marketing 10 years ago and invest really heavily in really authoritative content. And I really do believe that this room is building the future there. As I went through the attendee list last week and looked at the people that were here, it just blew my mind in terms of, oh, these are the people that are doing this. So who is in the room? This is our first time throwing the event. I lost a battle with our head of marketing. I wanted to charge for tickets. I lost that battle. What that meant is we got a ton of applicants and we got to curate a really incredible room. So the 200 people in this room are the people leading brand organizations. They're the people that, whether I've spoken with them, whether people on the team have spoken with them, whether we're seeing the type of content that your organization is putting out, it's really an incredible group of people in this room. And so there's going to be an opportunity not just to learn from the panels, but we wanted to create a lot of networking time, plenty of time for cocktails, because I really, again, do want to think about how can we build community from the people thinking about this problem. Beyond just the numbers, just really incredible brands are in the room. So we've got people representing content at Fortune 500 companies. We've got people in the room working at private companies that are worth more than most Fortune 500 companies. B2B, B2C, small companies, large companies, just an incredible group of logos that are represented. But much more than logos is the content that the people in this room and their teams are producing. So we've got really incredible data journalism from brands like Toast, Indeed, Hone. I'm sorry I had to pick three. Took me a long time to pick the three, but that's what we're going with. Again, these are not, hey, look at our product and how great we are and why you should buy us today, tomorrow, or next week. This is brands realizing that instead of waiting to be covered by the news, you can be the source of, call it news, call it information, and really become an authority. Beyond data journalism, we've got really incredible examples of people in the room, teams in the room, building more features, building service journalism. Michelin has been doing this for a while, but we have so many examples we're seeing where people realize we have subject matter experts at our company. Let's start telling stories. And so when I look at this content, I really do believe that some of the best original research and reporting is going to come from brand newsrooms over the next 5 years. What this group produces cannot replace independent journalism. I get that question so often. Noah, are you saying that we don't need newspapers anymore? That's not what I'm saying. They are completely different things, but what I am saying is that seeing the type of talent that these companies are recruiting, seeing the investment a lot of these organizations are making, and seeing the content that's coming out, I really do believe some of the best research is coming out of the teams in this room, the teams that are investing in this. With that said, we work with a lot of companies. We've really seen that there are kind of three main challenges pop up as you guys are running these teams. So the first is content strategy. How the hell do you create an objective content strategy that also drives business results? And we're going to have some really interesting conversations today about how people are thinking through that. Beyond content strategy, and I promise you this is the only AI-generated slide in the deck, once you make good content, how do you find an audience? There are so many ways you can find an audience. The saddest story we see time and time again is a brand invests in a really big team. They think about content strategy. They have a great content strategy. They look up a year later and they say, wait, no one's coming to our blog. And so we're going to talk a lot about this today. We're going to talk about different distribution strategies. We are lucky to have Beehive come up and talk about how people are building newsletters. There's so many different options, but if you don't think about distribution from day one, we're seeing that a lot of these efforts end up getting shut down a year or two later. And then finally, once you have great content, once you have an audience, how the hell do you measure or prove that this is actually worth it, right? We are seeing triangulating, well, if we look at this and then we supplement it with this data and we value this thing over here at this much, and so that's our report. And what's been really nice at Stacker, working with about 150, 160 different brands, is it's really frustrating for our product and accounts team that everyone wants to think about ROI in a slightly different way. But we're starting to triangulate how are people thinking about this collectively, which we're going to have some conversations on today. So that's what today is about. It's about editorial strategy, distribution, and measuring and proving ROI. I have gotten a lot of questions the past month of people reaching out and saying, who the hell is Stacker? Why are you guys hosting this free event for brand journalists, for brand editors? And so spare me 3 minutes because I want to talk about what Stacker is and why we have kind of by happenstance found ourselves in the epicenter of this trend. So in a nutshell, Stacker operates a newswire that's syndicated all across the US. If you think about Associated Press for breaking news, if you think about Reuters for financial content as wire services, we've essentially built out a wire service specifically for features, be they data-driven features, be they service journalism, other features. The only difference is that the stories on our newswire are produced by brand newsrooms. So as one example from Hims and Hers, top US destinations for fitness lovers. We are taking content from hundreds of brands and having that placed across other news outlets via our wire, essentially expanding the organic distribution of the best brand-produced editorial. So, we're taking the story from SoFi. We are getting that story as SoFi wrote it, placed on WDBO Orlando affiliate. Why am I looking at this random Orlando affiliate? We'll get to that later. But so many examples, whether it's B2C, B2B, we are finding that if your brand invests in great content, if you have hired great talent, if you're writing stories that inform an audience, that news outlets will take that, they'll give you the byline, and they will republish it exactly as you have written the piece. What's really interesting has been, if you had asked me a year and a half ago, why do people want to distribute their content? I would have said about 50% of companies, it's the comms and PR group saying, we've got this content, no one's coming to our blog, we need more audience, what can you do? The other half was the SEO or growth team saying, we have this content, we want more links, news outlets are a great place to get links, can we syndicate our content? And then around last May or June, that all got thrown in this GEO blender, and it turns out that earned media drives a lot of brand citations, and GEO has become this huge thing everyone in this room is thinking about. And we happenstance have found that by syndicating content out to lots of news outlets, you're essentially increasing the surface area for an LLM to cite your brand. So we have that same SoFi story. It was placed on this Orlando affiliate. And then what we're seeing is that when someone goes and searches for something on ChatGPT in that space, promise I would get to use this once, we are seeing that WBDO right there for everyone else, best $10 I've ever spent, is the reason that SoFi is being brought in, right? So these are probabilistic models, and we've seen that if you take one piece of content and publish it on your site, maybe you're going to get cited. But if you take that same piece of content and publish it on 100 different news outlets, there's just a lot more surface area for your brand to get mentioned for different surfaces. So GEO has become huge. We ran this huge case study earlier this year looking at almost 90 stories, effectively found that if you do take your content, syndicate it out across hundreds of news outlets, we see about a 2.3x lift in the amount of times you're being cited because of that story. For the 30 or 40 customers that are in the room, we've got some really exciting announcements coming out in 3 weeks with new reporting and new tracking and measurement of that. But what I will say is it's not just GEO. So earlier this week, someone asked me, hey, do you think the reason all these brands are hiring journalists is because of GEO? There's all this proof coming out, all this research saying the way to show up in GEO is through earned media. So therefore you hire storytellers, you tell stories, you get earned media. Do you think that's what's driving this? And it's a hard no for me. GEO is definitely a part of it. It's one pillar of this. But the reality is, as we talked about earlier, brands need to find a way to break through. You need to build authority. And the reason brands are hiring journalists, they are building newsrooms and they're thinking about content that is not even top of the funnel content as we thought about it 5 years ago, but real editorial is the reason. Really excited. Again, thank you to our sponsors of Beehive and Scrunch. Also Astra, an incredible content agency. They've got a booth out there. They're helping teams get off the ground without building full content teams, as well as Gist, another platform in the AI analytics space. Huge thank you to our sponsors. So with that, let's get to it.